Today, we're taking a look at this Pac-12 SEC matchup between Utah and Florida. And to me, this is actually the most compelling game on Saturday because of the thin point spread, especially compared to the other big games happening on Saturday. Utah is a 3-point favorite, and this is a thin point spread for good reason when you think about it. Both of these teams return about the same amount of production. Each of these teams have a dark horse candidate for the Heisman, as Anthony Richardson actually is in the top 15 when it comes to Heisman odds. And then ultimately, both of these teams want to play a physical brand of football that lends itself to each team being able to take over in the fourth quarter by way of running the ball, as each of these head coaches had well over 5-4 run-to-pass splits last season. So with all of that said, let's dive into the matchups and make a prediction for this one. Let's first take a look at Utah's offense. And offensive coordinator Andy Ludwig likes to have a balanced attack and ultimately set up the run later on in the game. And I believe he has the personnel to do that, as he is going to have a good to great offensive line again this year and a quarterback in Cam Rising that is seemingly always in command. Florida certainly has the athletes defensively to cover a lot of ground and to disrupt the timing of this Utah offense. The big question mark to me is their depth, and that's why one of the keys in this game to me for Florida is having success defensively on early downs so they can get off the field on later downs. And it's no wonder as to why they might not have as much depth as they've had in years past. I mean, they lost guys like Zachary Carter, Mohamed Diabate, Kaiir Elam, and they also have a first-year head coach who is dealing with some of the roster being turned over. So there are some young guys here, and they're going to get better as the season goes along. I also think quarterback Cam Rising is going to have to get most of his work done in this game from the pocket, as I really do think that when you go play in an SEC game, there's a different caliber of athlete compared to the Pac-12. Now, I know he had that big run against Ohio State in the Rose Bowl game, but Ohio State's defense was pretty dreadful last year, especially against the run. So all I'm saying is that I would be surprised if Cam Rising had 40 to 50 rushing yards in this game. Then we flip it over to Florida's offense, and you know the old cliche about the team only goes as far as the quarterback goes? Well, I do believe that's the case for Florida this year, and it's not because Florida's devoid of talent offensively. I actually think Justin Shorter and Xavier Henderson could turn into pros someday, and this offensive line is a little underrated. I just happen to think that it's simply because of the style of play and the philosophy that Billy Napier employs in his offense, which is quarterback friendly. So they are going to need some running backs to step up into roles that they haven't had before. They're a little unproven at that spot, but ultimately I think Anthony Richardson is the best playmaker for this offense, and Billy Napier knows that, and I think he's going to utilize his strengths in this one. You know, this is truly a big game for both of these programs, as Utah has playoff aspirations this year after winning the Pac-12 last year and bringing back a lot of production, and Florida is trying to get off to the right foot with its brand new coaching staff, and it's trying to get a win before it gets into SEC play in an improved SEC East, where we saw Kentucky start the year 6-0 last season. We see Tennessee and South Carolina trending upward, and we already know what Georgia is. So, you know, each of these teams can afford a loss in this one, but man, it is quite a resume builder. And it really is an interesting matchup, because even though both of these teams ultimately want to run the ball, I don't think this is going to be a slugfest. In fact, I could see each team passing early and often in this one. Each offensive staff has a good track record of, you know, again, having that balanced attack and ultimately setting up the run for later in the game. And then ultimately with Florida's offense, I do think the skill position players, the guys that I mentioned, like Justin Shorter, like Xavier Henderson, are going to have to make some big plays in this one. And the last point I'll make about Florida before I make this quick prediction is that last year we had questions about this offensive line early on in the season. Then they played Alabama in Week 3, and they put up over 240 yards on the ground in that one. So this is a coaching staff between Billy Napier and offensive coordinator Rob Sale, who has a background in coaching up offensive lines, where I think they have personnel that dictates them being able to run the ball at certain spots, even against a good Utah team. So ultimately, I see Anthony Richardson playing a huge role in this one and Florida sneaking out with a win. And that doesn't mean that Utah still can't have a great season. In fact, it'll be a good test for Utah early on. So that is going to do it for this one. Thank you all for watching. If you enjoy the content, consider hitting that subscribe button, as I will be previewing more and more college football games, not only this weekend, but throughout the regular season. So stay tuned.